ahead of the first anniversary, India has reiterated its stance on the war in Ukraine, saying it was time for dialogue and diplomacy and not war. A meeting of finance ministers of G20 countries is underway in Bengaluru at the moment. India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur and Today's Era said that today's era is not for war but for democracy, dialogue and diplomacy. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang says that Beijing believes Indonesia and other ASEAN countries will make independent judgment and choices to ensure stability in the Asia-Pacific region. China will also accelerate the code of conduct discussion while jointly maintaining the peace and stability in the contested waters. Beijing claims that 90% of waters of the Asia-Pacific region. Qin is in Jakarta at the moment for a 3-day visit where he is expected to meet other Indonesian ministers and ASEAN officials. A senior Chinese diplomat has told his Japanese counterpart that Beijing is very troubled by Tokyo's military buildup. He further criticized Japan for adopting a Cold War mentality in their first formal security talks in 4 years. Yamada also said that during the meeting that bilateral relations between Japan and China face many challenges and issues, emphasizing that open dialogue is needed, particularly in defense. The security talks aimed at easing tensions between the East Asian neighbors come as Tokyo worries that Beijing will resort to military actions to take control of Taiwan and embroil Japan in doing so. Hong Kong's Financial Secretary Paul Chan has announced that in the latest budget, Hong Kong will be working harder for its recovery from the prolonged economic downturn induced by COVID-19 restrictions. The city will now give more handouts to consumers to support the plan. Hong Kong is counting on increased cross-border business with mainland China, which has also given up enforcing COVID rules. The city had spent more than $76.44 billion on various pandemic relief programs for the past 3 years, forcing it to run rare budget deficits.
主席、各位議員，香港同內地同國際嘅往來迅速復常，整體經濟氣氛有所改善，私人消費將會上升。考慮到當前嘅經濟、社會民生同埋喺3年疫情打擊後。
The head of the Wagner Group, a Russian mercenary force, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has accused Russia's chief of the general staff and minister of defense of treason. The Wagner chief has stated that they deprived his fighters of ammunition in an attempt to destroy his private military company, further adding that Wagner fighters were dropping like flies in the absence of necessary supplies. The Russian defense minister rejected his accusations and stated that due to his actions and accusations, Prigozhin is damaging the war effort. Russia's defense ministry has reported that Russia's Flagship frigate, equipped with new generation hypersonic cruise missiles, has arrived in the South African port of Richards Bay for exercises. The exercises will also include China. South Africa was due to launch the joint exercises on Friday. Even if they have been called routine drills, the exercises have fueled domestic criticism and fears that they could endanger relations with Western partners. The beginning of the exercises coincided with the first anniversary of the Ukraine war that is upcoming and follows Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision to suspend its last major nuclear arms control treaty with the United States. Two senior German ministers landed in the southern Turkey on Tuesday and visited one of the areas hit by the devastating earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria more than 2 weeks ago. The foreign and interior ministers underscored Berlin's support for the victims and the ongoing reconstruction efforts. They also met Turkish President Turkish government officials as well as victims of the earthquake. US First Lady Dr. Jill Biden departed for a trip to Namibia and Kenya on Tuesday. While leaving, Jill said that she and the leaders of the African nations, quote-unquote, have a lot to accomplish. The US First Lady will be the most prominent US official to visit the continent ever since her husband, US President Joe Biden, took office. Ahead of her departure, Jill said that her husband was glad that he made an unannounced trip to visit Kiev on Monday. Seattle has become the first US city to outlaw caste discrimination after its local council voted to add caste to the city's anti-discrimination laws. The move addresses an issue important to the area's South Asian diaspora, particularly the Indian and Hindu communities. Activists opposing caste discrimination say that it's no different from other forms of discrimination like racism and hence should be outlawed. US discrimination law bans ancestry discrimination but does not explicitly ban casteism. Mexico's former president, Felipe Calderon, has said that he never negotiated with criminals. This after his former public security minister was convicted on charges of taking millions of dollars in bribes from the infamous Sinaloa cartel. In a statement shared on Twitter, Calderon said that thanks to his fight against crime and cartels, that criminality in the state had weakened while the state itself had become stronger. 54-year-old Garcia Luna is one of the highest-ranking Mexican officials ever accused of ties to drug trafficking. Shamima Begum, who left Britain as a schoolgirl to join the Islamic State, has lost an appeal against the decision to remove her British citizenship. At a 5-day hearing in November, Begum, who was 15 when she left her home in East London with 2 school friends in 2015 to travel to Syria, challenged the decision taken to the then Home Secretary Sajid Javid in 2019. The Special Immigration Appeals Commission decided the revocation of her citizenship and occurred after she was discovered in a refugee camp in northeast Syria in 2019. An Iranian Foundation has praised Hedi Matar, who attacked author Salman Rushdie just last year. The foundation has promised him about 1,000 square meters of agricultural land. Matar, accused of severely injuring Rushdie, has pleaded not guilty to charges of second-degree attempted murder and assault. According to reports citing Iranian state television, the offer was made by the foundation of implement Imam Khomeini's fatwas, and they have donated about 1,000 square meters of agricultural land to the person who attacked Rushdie or any of his legal representatives. The closing of a key border crossing between Pakistan and Afghanistan has now started causing problems to the economies of both countries. Scores of trucks have lined up on the border as reopening of this crossing remains out of sight for now. The Torkham border crossing is closed since Sunday. It is one of the main points of transit for travellers and goods between Islamabad and Kabul. Thousands of goods vehicles remain stuck on both sides of the border. The Pakistan-Afghanistan Joint Chamber of Commerce and Industry has said that the closure is causing losses to traders in both the nations. The Nigerian governing party's presidential candidate on Tuesday promised to renew the hope of those losing faith in the country. if elected to power. The presidential elections are scheduled to be held on Saturday and comes at a time when the country is facing rampant insecurity and a worsening economic crisis. The ruling All Progressiveness Congress's candidate Bola Tinubu was speaking at a rally in Lagos City, where he once held the post of the governor. Dancing to traditional drums and wearing clothes printed with images of his face, many of his supporters touted his success during his stint as the governor. Days after discussing military drills with the United States, Philippines is now mulling joint patrols with Australia in the South China Sea as China's assertiveness becomes more threatening. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles met with Philippines' counterpart in Manila. Philippines is ramping up its attempts to counter China's aggression activities in the South China Sea. Now, these have become a flashpoint for China and US and their tensions around naval operations. Now, Australia, which has been dealing with massive wildfires for a couple of years now, is now again facing the threat of the same this year. A study has warned of a larger than ever wildfire this summer, which it says will be supercharged by the climate crisis. The analysis done by the Climate Council and Emergency Leaders for Climate Action states that several regions in the country face an increasing risk of grass fires during the current dry season up to April. These include New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, South Australia and Western Australia. In an attempt to hammer out a new legally binding ocean protection treaty, delegations from hundreds of countries are meeting in New York today. Actress and activist Jane Fonda is also attending the gathering. Ms. Fonda stressed on the need of the importance of the treaty, saying that it will force people to behave right and save the ocean. Experts familiar with the negotiations said that major parties have now moved closer together on key issues. According to Greenpeace, about 11 million square kilometers of ocean must be protected every year, and this will be to protect 30% of world's land and sea by 2030. Filipino Catholics took part in Ash Wednesday rites to celebrate the beginning of Lent. Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of the 40-day Lent season, observed by Catholics in commemoration of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The believers fast, pray and reflect during the time. Hundreds of worshippers lined up outside Manila's church to have their foreheads marked with a cross using ash. Ash symbolizes penance and the following of Jesus Christ. Roman Catholics comprise up to 85% of the Philippine population of 92 million, making it the religion's stronghold in Asia. Now, it is the season of carnivals as New Orleans brings its largest carnival since the pandemic started. The carnival is expected to draw at least 1 million people to the area. More than 70 parade floats made their way through the city's streets to mark Mardi Gras, which is French for Fat Tuesday. Parade floats made their debut during the city's Mardi Gras celebrations in 1857 and have remained a central part of the festivities. The carnival takes place the day before Christmas. Christians observe Ash Wednesday. That marks the start of the solemn 40-day Lent season, which ends on Easter Sunday. Unable to show at home, 3 Ukrainian fashion designers hit the runway at London Fashion Week on Tuesday. In the first of the back-to-back shows, one Ukrainian fashion house mixed denim jeans and dresses with white tops and multicolored patchwork-designed outfits for their joyful and eco-friendly collection. At the end of the show, the designers appeared together with the Ukrainian flag. Designers from Ukraine Fashion Week will also show in Berlin and Copenhagen. During a visit to a care home near London, Britain's Princess Catherine struggled in her attempts to make a pancake on Shrove for the care home residents as she playfully asked them not to even try her pancakes. Shrove Tuesday traditionally marks the last chance for Christians to indulge themselves and to use up the food not allowed during Lent. Lent is an old English word meaning lengthen, and it is a season of reflection and preparation before the celebrations of Easter.